You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is Thursday, February 13th.
I'm very bundled up today.
It's a little chilly here in St. Louis.
It's like 1 degree in the west side of the state.
It's almost like an ice age in here.
No
that was really
way.
bad. Bad segue.
But we are talking about science today, and I'm really nerding out already. This is going to be a great 12 minutes.
We're just adding to the list of the things that you nerd out about. I mean,
Science is definitely on that list.
Hymns, history,
bikes, science.
Now science. Particularly, we're going to take a look at some fossils, which is really exciting because there's a really, really neat event coming up here in the St. Louis area, March 7th, that I'm pretty excited about and looking forward to sharing with you. So we're going to look at some fossils, rocks, minerals.
But we get to look at them.
We get to. That's true.
I will take some pictures, and post them because they're pretty cool. That's
true. Our descriptions probably won't do them justice. And in the second half, we're going to share about camp in Indiana. We shared a little bit about Lakeview Ministries. We'll share some stories about camp this morning as well.
They're the ones that do archery tag, aren't they?
That's the men's retreat. But yes, we'll share about that in a few weeks. I can't go to that retreat. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us in studio this morning, Bill Barnes. He's a material scientist and presenter of the Fossil Rock and Mineral Show coming up March 7th here in the St. Louis area at the Pillar Foundation in Ellisville. Bill, thanks so much for joining us in studio this morning.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And he brought a nice selection of materials with him this morning that I'm excited to learn more about. I got a little preview before the program. This is cool stuff. So, okay, first of all, before we get into the fossils and rocks and minerals, what's a material scientist? Because I had to think about this for a little bit yesterday.
Sure. It's in the engineering field. It's similar to like a mechanical engineer, but we study materials, ceramics, metals, plastics, and their application and different structural applications.
So how long have you been a materials engineer?
For 15 years, I worked in the defense and aerospace industries, specifically with magnesium and aluminum products. I haven't done it for about 15 years, but that was my education at Michigan State University, and you can go to Purdue or University of Missouri Rolla, or Champaign, Urbana, and get a material science degree.
We have a Michigan fan in the room, if you didn't notice.
Oh, really?
I'm from Michigan. Hey, Michigan's full of really great engineers, so this is cool.
You come from a family of engineers,
I do come from a family of engineers, yeah.
I think you're the only one who's not an engineer, right?
I am.
So what then prompted you to investigate further and look at the matters of creation and the origin of the world?
Well, I was 31, and I kind of exhausted all the ways of the flesh and the ways of the world, and started seeking and started looking at scripture. And I was reading a book called God's Secrets, and it was just a little book, and had one verse on each page, easy to read, and it was proverbial wisdom. And then all of a sudden, Mark 7:20 through 23, which says, out of the abundance of the heart, that's where our corruption comes, from the heart. And so I read the details of it, and I said, boy, that matches me up to really well, So I followed up everything else behind that, and it made me take a journey where I went off track, and it was in the third grade. I bought Evolution, hook, line, and sinker, and lived out, kind of a vain pursued life for the next 25 years, and but that was it. And so it's a historical dispute, and I looked at where I bought in the millions of years ago, and evolving from slime, and all that purposeless direction, and all the garbage that goes with it. So
yeah. Where did you go with that? What was the next path in your journey? What did you learn as you kind of went down this path?
Well, I started getting stuff from Creation Ministries that just really lined up with Scripture, and come to find out it's a historical narrative that we're fighting for, and Isaiah 1:18, come let us reason together, saith the Lord. Did he give us the most reasonable historical narrative? And if you hammer that out, you find it out to be true, and there's so many things like even Noah's 16 grandsons. You can find them online, and find that we're all cousins. So
they're not on Facebook, are they?
That would be weird.
So what can we learn from studying fossils, rocks, and minerals?
Yeah, well, the enemies used them to sell a false narrative, and it's a real shame because in like 1830, Charles Lyell popularized the idea the present is the key to the past, whereas that's so ridiculous. The opposite is true because the past is the key to the present, and the Lord gives us real clear direction. What happened in the past? What happened before we got here? And it matches reality. It matches so many things around us, and even the rocks, fossils, minerals. And there's a bumper sticker that the secularists use that say, "We have the fossils, we win." And I like to cover that up with, we all have the fossils. Let's be reasonable, right? Because there's trillions of them. And you find marine fossils on the top of Mount Everest. And Missouri state fossils, the crinoid, and you can find that on the top of Mount Everest. You find millions of them in Missouri, millions in Indiana, millions in Illinois. I can go on and on.
I know. I wish we had like hours upon hours, and we'll get to where you can actually hear more about this in just a minute. But tell us about, you mentioned the Missouri State fossil. Tell us about some of these things that you brought into studio with us.
Yeah, an amazing thing too. Kansas state fossil is the mosasaur, and it's a marine reptile, and you can find it on every continent, and you can find plenty of complete specimens. And you can also find millions of mosasaur teeth, and they're easy to acquire. It doesn't take a lot of money. And so the Lord's left us these kind of indications that everything was underwater. Mm-hmm. And it's delightful. And sometimes secular geologists like to tell us that the crinoid fossils are 345 million years old, but there's absolutely nothing to prove that. Nothing can prove that these are 345 million years old. So a lot of assumptions going on with that.
Let's talk about some of those assumptions. And first of all, before we even get to those assumptions, I knew each state in the United States had like a state bird, a state flower, a state tree. Did not know each state had a fossil.
There's a state rock too, isn't there?
Yeah.
I didn't.
I know of Michigan State Rock because it's really pretty.
Yeah, and interesting that you say that. It's the Petoskey Stone, which is coral.
Yeah.
And Florida State Rock is agatized coral. So coral everywhere. Mm-hmm. In a flood, coral's not going anywhere. It's staying at the bottom. And Missouri, there's a lot of coral too. So, a wonderful thing. Yeah, state fossils started showing up around the 1970s, 1980s, and about 45 states have state fossils. Mm-hmm. And so many of them are marine fossils. So it really helps our case that everything was underwater.
I feel bad for the 5 states that don't have state fossils. They're left out. So you mentioned assumptions that end up taking us down this path of leading us away from the truth when we make those assumptions. Help us understand what some of those assumptions are that are made in the case for evolution.
Okay. Well, let's look at some rocks that we know the age of, like volcanic rock, basalt, of recent eruptions. They've dated those, like, say, Mount St. Helens is dated to be, I believe it's 2 million years old, but it's from a 1980s eruption. So over and over again, radiometric dating is wrong on rocks that we know the age of. So it's proven itself unreliable. How can you rely on it with rocks that you don't know the age of? There's assumptions about the beginning parent-daughter ratio of, like, say, potassium to argon or uranium to lead. You have to assume your starting point of the parent-daughter ratio. So that's a huge assumption. You don't know what you had to begin with. So that assumption has led people to rewrite history, and scientists cannot rewrite history effectually. So which historical narrative is the most accurate? And to find that out, you have to put on the disciplines of a historian.
Sure. Yeah. Oh man, we only have 2 minutes left. We should probably talk about the show that's coming up.
Okay.
Tell us about the fossil rock and mineral show. Words.
Okay.
Coming up.
Well, it's all day long. It's 12 hours. Just come by for a little bit. There's like half-hour speaking engagements every other hour, and we just give simple history, anthropology, geology. It's for all ages, and we had one about 6 months ago, and all ages are engaged. We don't talk over their heads, and plenty of free stuff to take home. And then also, I buy in bulk, and I buy bulk items that are not that expensive. So, like plenty of quartz, selenite, different, and also a whole lot of different fossils. And we'll also have some really big fossils there too. Some dino bones, some megalodon teeth, giant shark teeth, 5 inches. So, we'll have probably about 20 tables worth of stuff. And like I said, it's 12 hours all day long. So you just want to swing by for a little bit and leave. You don't have to stay long. You just see what the Lord's left for us. And there's a great narrative that matches all these fossils, rocks, and minerals.
So cool. Where is this located?
It's going to be at the Pillar Foundation at 15820 Clayton Road in Ellisville, Missouri. And like I said, all day, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., March 7th, Saturday.
So if you're familiar with the West County, St. Louis area, this is not too far from the intersection of Clarkson Road and Clayton Road.
Oh, I know where that is.
So it's in Ellisville.
Thanks for that.
Sure, no problem. Clarkson, which is also 340.
Yeah.
It turns into Olive when you go north of 40. Anyway, so it's not too far from Clarkson and Clayton. Isn't it St. Louis when you know
you
it's
just
St.
know
Louis?
the intersections.
Well, when the street has 5 names, because
Also
depending on where you are on that street. So yes, in Ellisville at the Pillar Foundation, really neat place too, neat concept. It's a group of homeschools the cooperative. So
very cool.
So it's taking place Saturday, March 7th, 9 to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's a long day for you, brother.
I have some helpers.
Fossils and rocks, minerals. Come check it out. Bill, thank you so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And letting me see the teeth of the, what was it? The
Mosasaur.
Mosasaur.
You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.